This is the Millennial Realtor Podcast. You have questions about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and we have answers to those questions. Here on the Millennial Realtor Podcast, we're here to help you live the American dream. In today's episode of Season 1, Episode 16, I'm going to give you some tips to buy a house in the seller's market so you can actually win the home of your dreams and beat out competitive offers. This is the Millennial Realtor Podcast. Hi everybody, just going to have a quick podcast episode for today. I was a little bit sick earlier last week, and so just kind of recovering at this time. But wanted to kind of give you a short episode on this last weekend of what I've done with some buyers and kind of a trend that's going on out there. So just to kind of give you an update of the Millennial Realtor Podcast, we've decided to segment this out into seasons, and we're calling this Season 1, Episode 16. And the reason why is just I think we're going to have some breaks around summertime on podcasting, and then going to come back in about August, September. Haven't really decided at this time, but had some ideas from the podcast conventions, podcast movement convention in Los Angeles that I attended last week. Had some great ideas to really expand this show to help people out on real estate and some advice out there. And just wanted to let you know that there are some upcoming exciting surprises coming up. I can barely talk today. And so, have some ideas coming up. Possible merchandise that's going to be available, and other nice adventures to kind of sweeten up the show and add it to be a little bit more entertaining and to be more exciting. So, with that being said, just going to take a quick short break, and then I'm going to talk to you about this last weekend that I had with some buyers that we were very successful in getting them into the home that they wanted. So we'll be right back with a short break. Are you interested in making your own podcast? Hi, this is Conrad Mazeika from the Millennial Realtor Podcast, and let me tell you some of the benefits of using Anchor. One, it's free, so the cost can be very, very small when you first start out. Two, there's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. This is from my iPad. Also, Anchor has the ability to distribute your podcast for you to Spotify, Apple, and others as well. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one location. So, if you are interested in starting your podcast, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we're back from the break. So, talking about this last week with my buyers. I met this couple 2 weeks ago, and they were just first-time home buyers. Well, actually, from what I learned from the conversation, he did own a home, a condo in Northern California several years ago, and then sold it off, in the 90s. So this is kind of his first time with his wife that they purchased a home, and so it was, from that point on, they were a very nice couple. They kind of reached out to me and to get some guidance on owning a home because they didn't want to pay high taxes anymore. They wanted to own something, and they wanted something for their daughter to kind of enjoy as far as a property. So I got talking with them, and in the consultation, because I did mention maybe renting might be an option, because it is an option for some, and that they thought that was okay if they weren't going to get qualified for the financing, then getting a rental might be a good backup option. So paired them off with a lender that I work with very closely, and got them pre-approved. And this was this last week that they were pre-approved, and we were going to see homes on Saturday. And the first home that they saw, did a little bit of research on it, because I always want to know what I'm walking into as far as with a property, if there's anything wrong with it, what's the kind of marketing strategy behind the seller, what do I need to kind of prepare for if this buyer wants that specific house. And so the first property that they saw was well below the market, and it was pretty much like $200,000 below what the comparable homes were being sold for in that same area. And sure enough, it was same models, and this one that was brand new was newly done. It looked like it was a flip, because there were stickers all over the place, and some appliances were missing. So to me, that looks like it was a completely rehabbed, flipped property. And there was a ton of people there at the open house. It was the first time showing, so the parking was an issue because it was on a cul-de-sac, and it was pretty much it was there to kind of give some emotion and excitement about the property. So after kind of walking through there, and I just kind of asked them what they thought of it, and like, well, we were, we saw the price, and we thought that was going to be the case there, which, you don't want to just look at the price on a property, because that could be a disqualifying factor for numerous reasons. You want to look at a lot of other features to properties, to see if it fits for you. Price, obviously there's certain limitations as far as how high you can qualify for. And with a lot of homes, you want to just make sure that you're looking for key features, that it's not back to a freeway, it's in a good neighborhood, there's some parking available, just a lot of the overall amenities to take a look at before you say this is your home. Price is not really the case, because you're going to compare it to the other homes that are available and kind of go from that point on. And one easy tip is that if the comparable homes for the same bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage size is the same, and there's a big price discrepancy, it either means the home is way too high price or way too low. So the market's going to adjust either direction from that point on. And so we eventually saw another home, and it was in a new building area, and there's tons of people coming in. It was the last home available, and with a new build, and with the new homes, you want to make sure that you're one of the first ones in there, because each plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, the higher the plans that they go, the more expensive it becomes, because they're trying to finish the builder's trying to finish up their project completely. So my buyers took a look at the home, and it was finished. They didn't have to wait for anything, and they decided that they wanted the house. And so we moved very quickly, and there's still people coming in and out, seeing if there's a home to see, a home available. And it was a very busy office that my buyers and I attended. One of the other agents was supposed to be with the sales office to help for the weekend, but for some reason it didn't show up. or for one reason or another. And so we were just got the contract signed, got the deposit there, and are in escrow. And the good news is, my buyer, based on the builder, got a credit from the seller or from the builder for closing credits. One, they're going to get a reduction in the price of the home as well, and it was a cut by $23,000. And so, with that case, that was a good story that my buyers and my lender and myself, that we had a good game plan going into looking at houses, and to make sure that we're ready. We're gonna win the house. It depends on which one do you want. And so me and my buyers, we got the check in, and now we're in escrow on the property, and they're very happy about it. And in a case where I met them 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be closing in probably 3 to 4 weeks. So that's what happens when you have preparation on for a buyer when it's a hot seller's market that we're in today right now in Southern California. So what are some of the tips that I have? And I have 5 tips to kind of prepare for buyers out there. And so the first tip that I would recommend for you as a home buyer is proper communication. You want to make sure that you're communicating with your agent, with your lender, and with anybody that's going to be involved during the escrow period of selling the house from the seller to you. So that means that you want to be straight up and honest about what your intentions are, what your needs are, what your dislikes are, and everything associated with buying a house. Holding anything back is gonna prevent you from buying the house. Believe it or not, it may seem small, but it might be a big obstacle to getting you the keys to that brand new house. So you want to have that conversation with, honest conversation with your realtor, with your lender. For one thing, you can't lie to your lender because they're going to eventually find out. If you're going to lie about something with your finances, it's going to come out. It's better to catch it early than later. So the first tip is communication. Next tip that I have is having a lender pre-approve you before you even start the search of looking at homes. So the advantage is this. All the other buyers out there, they're not going to be doing that a lot of times because they don't know, or they don't have a good guidance in their direction to find a home. And so getting a lender pre-approved for you, and what I do with my clients is take it even a step further to get them through underwriting. So underwriting is a case where a lender will go, the lending company will go through your application completely, soup to nuts, with your assets, income, liabilities, all together to put them through that process. And so with the company that I use, getting you underwritten up front puts you in front of many buyers that are just pre-approved or just pre-qualified on buying a home. And so that puts you at a big advantage, and that you're almost buying with cash on a house. And so what you have to do is just have income verification at work, appraisal, and identification of property when you're in escrow. So it really simplifies it. You're not going back and forth about documents and this and that. I mean, you have to still satisfy certain Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines about the disclosures throughout the process, and the TRID as well when you're going through escrow. So tip number 2, get a lender pre-approved through underwriting. My next tip is kind of a little bit less logical and more emotional. So what I recommend to my buyers is have a letter to the owner of the house with your family photo, or a story about your family, and really try to connect them with the heart. Now, this doesn't work for all houses, but if you have a case where somebody's been in the home for 30, 40 years, there's some history to the house, and if somebody's had a couple of generations there, and you're a young family moving in, they're gonna want to turn to you more than somebody who's an investor and trying to make a profit off of that seller's home. So that's tip number 3, to get a letter to the owner based on letter from the heart, and use emotions and try to touch the hearts of the seller. Tip number 4, I don't know why I keep saying step. So I guess I'm just a more logical step-by-step basis versus tip, etc. Tip number 4 is more practical, is to have your statements ready for the offer package. And what you want to do is have, obviously, your account numbers blacked out, but you want to show enough to the seller that you have finances to cover the down payment and any closing costs for your loan and the offer. So have that readily available, so that when you're ready to move to make that purchase, that you have it ready to go, with the letter, with your pre-approval letter, with the offer, put it together in the package with your realtor, and the realtor will submit it to the other agent. And tip number 5 is important. That is, move fast. Move fast. In this case, when there's a seller's market, there's not a whole lot of time to think. And so when there's not a whole lot of time to think, you're going to probably sit still, and you might miss an opportunity to have a house that's going to be building equity for you and your family for a long period of time. And so moving quickly on your feet is critical in a seller's market, because you never know. You may have qualified for the house, and because you delayed, you may have had the best offer and you may have got your dream home. But because you decide to sort of take it easy, I need a couple days to think about it. I mean, if you weren't looking at the house to begin with, then there's something of a communication issue, going back to tip number 1. So if you love the house, you want to move fast. And you want to move quickly, just because everyone else loves it as well, that saw the house the same time as you did. And you got to make that decision very, very quickly. And so those are my tips to beat out other buyers in a seller's market. So if you wanted to have more information, you can go to our website. You can go to our YouTube, which is Mazeika Team, or you can follow me on Instagram, and I have some links in the description and other places as well. So thanks for listening, everybody, to the Millennial Realtor Podcast.